All right, welcome back to the SportsMax Zone. We continue talking football. Saturday, April 13 is the date earmarked for the long-awaited presidential elections for the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association. Only 2 candidates have been successfully nominated for the presidency: the Eastern Football Association President, Karen Edwards, and the CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago Premier Football League, Colin Worth. Here are the respective slates. So we have Karen Edwards' slate. He is going up for president. He will be on the team with Colin Murray, who is the first vice president, Osmond Downer, second vice president, Jameson Riggs, the third vice president, Alicia Austin, an ordinary member, Andrew Boodoo, ordinary member as well, Alan Logan, ordinary member, Ryan Nunes as well, and Shelton Williams. So that's Karen Edwards' slate. Let's take a look now at Colin Worth's slate. So he will be the president if elected. Then he'll have Keston Charles as his first vice president, Rennie John Williams as the second vice president, Huey Cadet as third vice president, and the ordinary members are Conde Freitas, Richard Mason, Lee Davis, Riaz Ali, and Makan Hislop. Okay, so joining us to tell us a bit more about this story, the presidential candidates and chosen running mates, is our SportsMax football analyst and former Trinidad and Tobago international, Brent Sancho, who is also our former sports minister in Trinidad and Tobago. Good afternoon, Brent. How are you? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday and happy International Women's Day. And of course, my blessing goes out to all the fabulous women in the SportsMax production room, and of course an extension throughout the Caribbean.
Thank you so much for that, Brent. So we're going to talk now some TTFA business, and you're a man, you know, when we talk about you here in our SportsMax meetings, you know everything when it comes to the football in the sense that you have the information that is required to, of course, engage us in these discussions, right?
Yeah,
so
certainly.
Yeah. So let's start by talking about, I'll go with Colin Worth first because we had the opportunity to chat with him here on the SportsMax Zone, and just your thoughts about him, you know, vying to be the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Football Association.
Mariah, let me give a little bit of context before I get into Colin Worth. I think this election on April 13th, I sum it up as some of my Western fans would appreciate as the good, the bad, and the ugly, really, because the good thing is that Trinidad and Tobago Football Association finally has an opportunity, the membership that is, and by extension, the fans and players, etc., to take back control of the reins and now move forward after the normalization committee. I think the bad for me is a bevy of untruths that have been told so far in this campaign, which of course we will delve into in this conversation. And I think the ugly is the membership needs to realize, despite all the mudslinging that has started on the ground here in Trinidad and Tobago, that at the end of the day, they need to work together if they are to move the football forward in Trinidad and Tobago. So my hope is that that ugly side can turn into something pretty.
Yeah. So that's a lot, and I already made my notes, and I can't wait to get into that. But I would just want like an overview about the 2 candidates that will be going up before we get into the meat of the matter.
Yeah, I think both candidates, and there is distinct, of course, definitions when it comes to both. I think Colin Worth is someone that's extremely new into football, only started recently under the normalization committee, and is still, I would say, learning his trade as it relates to football and the understandings of the football. And of course, Karen Edwards has been someone who's been part of Terminex Rangers and have been involved in quite some way. Both slates are very interesting as it relates to one slate, and I coined the phrase from Colin Worth, is that it's not a slate that has all the votes on it, or people that can vote, or people that have votes that they come with, compared to Karen Edwards' slate that seems to be having quite a fair share of some of the membership as part of him. So I think both have made it quite clear through their slates as to what direction they believe the football should go into. But all in all, it's already starting to heat up here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, and Brent, when I did my introduction about you just now, and I said, you really know the lay of the football land in Trinidad and Tobago, I was speaking about the different hats that you hold, right? I'm talking about player, of course, former sports minister. Now you're an analyst for SportsMax, so you're in the middle of everything, like salt, as we say in Trinidad, right? You just said something in your opening remarks about the bevy of untruths. And I feel as if I have to ask you about that because my viewers now, I'm sure their antennas are up and they're like, what untruths are you pointing to?
Well, there's some conversation here by one or two of the candidates about the impact if one or the other wins. Of course, the conversation about FIFA's position. Let me make it very clear that FIFA has zero position as to who wins or who loses. All FIFA cares about is that we have a proper election that has all the right processes involved. Secondly, the conversation about whether or not FIFA will stop their money if one person wins and the other person loses. FIFA cannot stop their money. It doesn't work that way. FIFA gives every single member association the same amount of money at the same period of time. What differentiates between who gets and who doesn't is if you tick your boxes and make sure that you're compliant in certain regards, and you have to tick certain boxes to get releases on funds. And also the fact that certain things will not happen within a footballing structure if one person loses and everyone does. So it doesn't work that way. And I guess some of it has been a bit of fear mongering to obviously as in any other election that you would see. And some of it really is naivety. I think one of the concerns, Mariah, for me, is that a lot of the membership, and not just in Trinidad and Tobago, but throughout the region and upwards, does not really take the time to understand how the FIFA funding works, how monies are raised and given through FIFA. And they have to understand that because that gives you a very clear indication in two aspects. One, understanding, of course, how much money you are working with as an FA. And then secondly, of course, where the money has gone. Because when of course, accounts come out at the end of the year and statements are given, then you can understand where your money has gone as a member.
But Brent, why is this so though? Because if you are a member of something, the first thing you want to know is, where is my money going? So why do you think the membership has been so lenient or, not so involved in asking these type of questions?
Well, I think we live in a climate here in the region where people are very comfortable to accept what is being said or taught or told to them instead of doing the diving and understanding what's underneath there. And that's something that is indicative that not just in football, but in many other spaces here within the region. And so that's unfortunate because to make the right choice, and I think this is what this election will come down to, being able to make the right choice and understanding why certain things are being done and why I need to choose this person for certain things to happen. And I think because we live in a situation where people are very comfortable of hearing things, whether it be on social media or told to them or spoken or given on WhatsApps or whatever, and keeping that as a gospel instead of doing their own research, that is where the challenge really comes in.
Yeah, Brent, we are anxious to speak with Karen Edwards, but as you know, we would have spoken to Colin Wharf a couple of days ago on the show. I'm not sure if you saw that interview, but he did present a posture of someone with great integrity and seriousness about the business of building Trinidad and Tobago's football. Having said that, you just mentioned a couple of minutes ago that he doesn't have a huge track record of being involved in football. What were your thoughts on how he did in the interview we did with him?
Look, I thought he spoke very well. He was very articulate in his points. I will say, however, one of the things that have been discussed here in Trinidad and is heavily being debated is the ethical situation as it relates to his current employment as CEO of the TTPFL. He made a statement that the oversight committee is the one responsible for any monies being moved, responsible for things that are being done in the league. But the problem with that oversight committee is that he has two persons as part of his slate that is on the oversight committee. So I think that is causing a bit of a stir here in Trinidad and Tobago amongst the membership and people in general that there is a strong belief that he should move away from his post as CEO of the TTPFL because it gives him an unfair advantage, as articulated and asked during the segment. The top two tiers in football, which the largest share of monies are distributed as it relates to the league format, are the ones that have at least 63% of the voting power in the election to come in April 13. So I think it is a concern, and I think many here are asking the question as to why is he still in that position, because it gives him an unfair advantage. And that seems to be the position of several persons here in the island.
So you weren't satisfied with his response that he gave us on the zone?
Not when you have people from your slate on the oversight committee. If the oversight committee has the oversharing vote, or the ones that are ahead, and then you have persons, there is easily a conversation that will be brought up as it relates to the ethical sides of things. And instead of having that pinned up against you, the best thing to do is to step down, to avoid the conversation, to show that you're showing and recusing yourself from that situation, not continue debate and allow it to continue on. And I think he may have missed a trick there, not doing that, because at the end of the day, it does now give that look that maybe something is not there and something is wrong.
As Kyron Edwards did, obviously on a different scale, I would think, when he resigned as assistant manager of La Horquita, because he said he wanted to ensure that he comes in with a clean slate and there wasn't any thought or perception of any conflict of interest. So he stepped down as the La Horquita assistant manager. That happened maybe a week and a half ago.
Yeah, it happened a week and a half ago, but I think it's a different situation, Lance, personally, because he's obviously part of a football club who is a member within obviously the TTFA, and of course, I don't think it has the same implication as someone that sits at the top of the TTPFL, that has, of course, two tiers of football, and of course, as I mentioned, 63% of the vote. So I think that is maybe a little bit different. Of course, yes, he decided to step down. And look, anybody that does go on to be successful in this will have to step down. But of course, even before that, yes, it's good practice to step down from certain situations. And I think Kyron Edwards found it that way to step down. So, I didn't see it neither here nor there, but if he's done it, that's fine.
Yeah, I did say that it obviously was on a different scale if you were to compare the two situations. Yeah. But I see on Kyron Edwards' slate some real veterans there, including Colin Murray and Osmond Donor. Donor has been involved in football for about 50 years. Is that a plus for Edwards' slate?
AKA Benjamin
I knew Donor from the 1980s. He was a top referee at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was a
referees association.
Yeah, referee, a school principal, and the list goes on and on. He's someone that seemed to be around a long time. And look, as you rightfully said, there's a lot of people there that have been in and around football for quite some time. Of course, you see Colin Murray up there. You look lower down, Ryan Nunes with the successful AC Port of Spain, that's at the top of the league as well. And you did mention Osmond Downer, Jameson Reed, someone who's been the president of the Super League. Of course, the league that is now called Tier 2 is also part of it. So it looks like a very experienced slate as it relates to person that have been in and around football for quite some time. It'll be interesting to see. Look, there's also, of course, a conversation on the ground as it relates to Kyron Edwards and his involvement in live sport and how that would impact. But there are other persons in football that have been involved in live sport as well. But I think his name came up, and that's the kind of niggling stuff that it seems to be in and around in some of these campaigns.
You just mentioned earlier on that there is this talk going on the ground about FIFA having a preference for one of the candidates, which you are saying that isn't so, which wasn't so the last time, because I remember when David John Williams was being challenged by William Wallace, Infantino came to Trinidad and Tobago and publicly endorsed the late David John Williams. So this situation is completely different from some of the other elections that we have seen in the past, because I would think that in the last years, Jack Warner had a lot of support from Sepp Blatter and so on. So we've seen Trinidad and Tobago Football Association elections in the past where FIFA has had a situation where they've endorsed one of the candidates.
Yeah, but I think, Lance, this one is coming because of the history of Colin Wolfe. Of course, someone that was chosen to run the under-20 football league that started right after the pandemic, and then handpicked to do the TTPFL CEO job. I think because of his close association with the FIFA CONCACAF RAN Normalization Committee, there is a belief that he's someone that has come out from the bosom of that. And when you look at it, and of course, when you look at the road and the lineage that would have come up, it's not surprising that people would think that way. I do have a lot of respect for Colin Wolfe, and is somebody that I think has done well since he's come in. But of course, as I said, there is a plethora of different situations that he will have to face during his campaigning time to convince the membership.
Yeah. Brent, I'm going to ask you this question because I know that it's the delegates that will vote and not the common football fan in the street. But from what you're gathering, I know you're a man of the streets. Do you, in your talking to the football people in TNT, sense that there is a preference either way from the average football fan in the country?
That's a good question, Lance. I think a lot of football fans in Trinidad and Tobago would like to see someone that has the vision to take the football to a next level, back to, I guess, the glory days of course, of being successful in the regional level and the dominance that Trinidad and Tobago has had. And I think there is a feeling as well that they want someone that has a close affinity with the membership, a close affinity with understanding, the history and the historical umbilical cord that football would have had, and has a close feeling to that. And I think that's what the feeling is on the ground here. There is a lot of dismay, and I must add this because it brings context as to where this election may be heading. There is a lot of dismay as it relates to the Normalization Committee. Because there's a feeling that enough is enough, and now it's time to move on, and now it's time for the membership to take back the reins. Remember, at the end of the day, the Normalization Committee started with a 2-year mandate, which was extended with 2 one-year extensions. So there's a feeling that the membership within Trinidad and Tobago wanted to take back what they considered their reins to move things forward. So I think when you start to shape all these different situations, I think you get a better understanding of what persons might be saying and might be feeling. But again, like any election, I know you would know this, Lance, that with about 5 or so weeks before April 13th, a lot of things could happen between now and then. So, it's interesting. The conversations are now starting to happen. Sound bites are coming out from the various the two candidates, and people are starting to make their decisions and starting to form their opinions.
Yeah. I asked the question because yesterday we had Omari Eastman, who is challenging Randy Harris, the current Barbados Football Association president. And I guess he would say this, but I'm just going to say it anyway because that's what he said. He suggested that the man in the street wants Randy Harris out. Although he accepts that the delegates will decide who wins. But he suggested on the show yesterday that the average man in the street believes that the Barbados football product has declined so drastically in the past 8 or 9 years that they want to see Randy Harris out. But of course, they don't have votes, so they can say that. So I was just wondering, Brent, if there was a feeling in Trinidad and Tobago from the common man.
The common feeling, Lance, is that the Normalization Committee time is up.
We know, but I want to know if there's a preference for Wolfe or Edwards.
Well, I think is the fact that the Normalization Committee is up, and I think because, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what side you sit on, for Colin Wolfe, he seems to come from that fabric, and because of that, it does have its challenges for him as a candidate. Because as I said in his first set of sound bites coming out, it was all about continuing the good work of the Normalization Committee and talking and referencing. And again, understand that I'm not saying the Normalization Committee did not do a good job. All I'm suggesting is that is the sort of rhetoric that is coming out. And the feeling on the ground here in Trinidad and Tobago is that they've had enough of the normalization committee, and now they want to press on with their own business.
Yeah, that's perfectly understandable, because the normalization committee should have ended its run in 2022, and it's 2024, and they're still there. So I understand the point you're making, Brent. Don't move from where you are, because you're going to talk some other football with us on the other side of the break. We'll be back in a moment.